And we're good to go. Love it, love it, love it, love it. We're good to go, chat. We're good to go, chat. We're good to go. I'm just. Soy un pendejo. What are we gonna do about it? Soy un pinche pendejo. Ya. ¿Qué más quieren de mí? ¿Qué más quieren de mí? All right. So never looking up fucking. Anyway, all right, let's get to it. Oh, it's not gonna change the. I think that's as good as it gets there. A little bit more. Awesome. Where were we? Yeah, we're right here. Some displaced people become refugees, and internal displacement is generally considered to be a risk factor for forced migration. A major route runs from Khartoum to the northwestern border with Libya. Other refugees transit through Egypt to Libya. Sudan's importance as a country of asylum, transit, and origin for refugees has given it new relevance in the context of what the European Union has described as a migration crisis. In 2011, the EU set out a strategic framework from for the Horn of Africa, which calls for the accountable political structure, which calls for accountable political structures, human rights, conflict resolution, regional security, regulated migration, economic growth, and regional cooperation. These objectives speak to some of the problems which push so many people in the region to flee their homes or seek better lives. In 2014, the EU set up the EU Horn of Africa Migration Route Initiative, known as the Khartoum Process. It brings together EU and Africa states and regional bodies to tackle irregular migration. Video and audio are not synced. God damn, bro. One, two, one, two, one, one. Audio is solid, good. Maybe try reloading the page if you're having issues with the audio, only because OBS just cut through for me. Culture 88 and Violet, way off, Ronaldo, way off. Whoa. Yeah, just try reloading. It might be that because OBS cut off. I appreciate y'all's patience with the technical issues we've been having today. Worked awesome. Honestly, honestly, genuine appreciation and just gratefulness for y'all coming back and sticking around through the technical issues. It's a good thing I believe in the Second Amendment. Awesome. Where are we at? Yes, okay. These objectives speak to some of the problems which push so many people in the region to flee their homes or seek better lives. In 2014, the EU set up the EU Horn of Africa Migration Route Initiative, known as the Khartoum Process. It brings together EU and African states and regional bodies to tackle irregular migration. The UK has taken a lead role in the Khartoum Process. For EU and Sudanese diplomats, the Khartoum Process appears to have shifted attention and commitment away from the strategic framework, and the focus is now on a narrow migration and security agenda. In 2016, the EU announced that it was giving Sudan £155 million for measures to address root cause of irregular migration and forced displacement. Human rights risk. The EU partnership with Sudan on the issue of migration raises a number of serious human rights concerns, risk of violation by the security forces, uh, failure to protect refugees and refoulements, the role of the EU, nationalists at the individuals whom the RSF has reported stopping include countries where there is well established spaces for people fleeing as refugees. However, as noted above, it is not clear if people intercepted by the RSF or any security or border officials are charged with criminal offenses, held without charges, or rehabilitated as victims of traffic. Without any clarity on what happens to people who are stopped by RSF, the risk of refoulement cannot be discounted. In 2014, a court in Nongala, northern province, reportedly fined 600 people, mainly from Eritrea and Ethiopia, and served them with deportation orders. We're on the same fucking page, Goth. On the same fucking página. All right. So okay, this was a cool little rundown. Let's go back to the main article. Um, Appreciate y'all sticking around. Can I read this stand? My back is. Oh man. All right, that's cool. Where are we? Where are we at? Let me move this. All right. Thank you so much for the super chat, Ace. Never done this for anyone, but you deserve it for the work you do. Much appreciation for understanding when I brought up lack of solidarity for Sudan on the left, even from black leftists, and the anti-blackness at the root of it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And my uncomfortability in turning on super chats and starting the Patreon and eventually starting the membership, all that stuff. Yes, it's rooted in how I was raised to not ask for handouts and just work hard and that's how you solve all your problems. But it's also rooted on the fact that like I'm working class. I'm not these fucking Wonder Bread YouTubers that fucking grew up wealthy. I grew up on welfare. I typical fucking brown family where it's like multiple people, multiple families to a room in a single house, like shit like that. Like I grew up with that. And I still think I grew up very privileged and very, it's just so fucking fortunate and lucky. Yes, at a cost, but nonetheless, I, it just I know that certain people would not be able to to have my childhood, but I'm grateful for it. Absolutely grateful for it. And I understand that we're all struggling and I want to have a community that is working class. I want to have a community that is not some fucking white hipsters. And so, believe me, that means a lot to me. And I'm very, very aware of that. And it's one of the main reasons why I actually do want to focus a little bit more on producing edited content. So that way I could just, you know, add revenue from it. Because I appreciate all the super stats, all the super stickers. I appreciate anyone that will join the membership, will join the Patreon, all that stuff 100%. But it would make me more comfortable if I knew that, you know, it was mainly coming from the ad revenue stuff. Although I hate ads, so I hate the fact that I had to put people through them. Uh, but no, Ace, thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. makes my fuck ups today a little bit brighter. Or makes me feel more bright about the day of fuck ups. And I'm always open to that criticism. Like I'm never gonna be that person that gets like offended or like, well, look at what I'm doing, everything else, or I have covered this, I have talked about it. Because technically, I did acknowledge this Sudan during the whole Kendrick Super Bowl thing with the Palestinian flag, but that's not enough. That's insufficient. So I was like, yes, I'm lacking in that. I need to address it. But more importantly, why have I not been addressing it the way that I have been paying attention to Palestine? Well, because mentor of mine is Palestinian and he put me on. Dope, cool. Not everything is going to be spoon fed to you. And guess what? Outside of his lectures, outside of our conversations, I took it upon myself to do the work to read, other material on Palestine. So why am I not doing the same for Sudan? Obviously, we don't have the time of day to pay attention to everything to inform ourselves completely on everything, but we can put some effort into understanding and knowing the basics, or at least what is going on active. So, nah, man, I'm like hypercritical about myself. I'm hypercritical of it. And I think that's, in some ways it's unhealthy, but in terms of like this online space, I think it's essential and healthy. This is where that fucking that little voice in my head that never shuts up will be beneficial, because I never want to be like Wonder Bread 2. I never want to have a fragile fucking ego. I never want to have thin skin. I'm here for the criticism. I'm here for the conversations. I'm here for the uncomfortable realities of my shortcomings. And you know what makes it easier? Not being able to read fucking simple words keeps me in fucking check. And I appreciate y'all helping me out with that. Thank you so much for the super chat. And yes, it doesn't have to be financial. You just get busy in the chat. Don't be scared, homies. You could also just hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and share this with somebody that you know. Appreciate y'all. All right. So going back to the main article, empowering a nation within a nation, leading up to Bashir's eventual overthrow in 2019, foreign policies inadvertently or deliberately empower the RSF, allowing them to become a nation within a nation. The European Union's Khartoum process in 2014 aimed at stemming African migration, empowered the RSF to quell migration, granting the paramilitary group legitimacy and resources through the central government in Khartoum. Excuse me. In 2015, Saudi Arabia and the UAE began to militarize the marginalized Sudanese citizens, utilizing them to fight in the Yemen war, with senior Sudan Armed Forces SAF officers coordinating the ground operations in Yemen. The majority of the fighters came from the RSF. The Yemen war marked the solidification of relations between the RSF and the UAE, as the money provided enabled the RSF to intensify its recruitment campaign, which transformed it from a fighting unit under SAF to a parallel force to the National Army. Yeesh. Damn. And this is like, we saw this, and I have to unfortunately relate this to what I know. But you see the rise of these militias alongside the military. And we saw that in Vietnam, and the rise of white nationalist right wing militias. That, I mean, you could make the argument too that the Klan itself was, an outgrowth of the Confederate military. Or that be the Union military. Chedimacha, I think also the Palestinian diaspora has been more globally active over the last generation, reversing that propaganda. The African diaspora from that region seems more fractured. In addition to the anti blackness permeating media culture. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong there. There definitely has to be an organized collective voice of the diaspora bringing attention to the issues back home. For sure. Yeah, I mean, and again, that doesn't make us unaccountable, but it definitely, I mean, we have to be honest too. We have to be honest as well. I mean, yesterday was it where I mentioned like the kind of uncomfortable conversation about, no, I think it was when I was speaking to Dr. Ball, the uncomfortable conversation about the affluence of the Palestinian diaspora. What does that mean? Um, does it factor into why they appear to be more leaning towards being accepted into liberal spaces than to advocating and advancing solidarity with the resistance forces? These are uncomfortable conversations, but real ones that we need to have. And maybe I'm not the person to lead them, but it's definitely conversations that um, I would like to hear. Just not, I don't. I mean, I don't need to hear them, but it's conversations I think we would benefit from hearing. How about that? Because a lot of our there's a lot of parallels. There's a lot of parallels. Ace, your reply to me on Twitter was gracious, while others have been hostile or ignored my criticism. I have much more smoke for certain Black liberation channels and Pan Africanists who have ignored Sudan. Thank you so much for the super chat again. Um, Look, I mean, I'm somebody because I didn't grow up online like that. I didn't grow up online like that. So when I interact, and this is also a shortcoming, I think, or a mistake. Culture 88, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you. I mean, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, no, my thing is like I interact with people online like I do in person, and that's probably not a good thing. It's probably not a good thing, and maybe it's something that I need to adjust. But in terms of like, if you come at me respectful, I'm gonna come at you respectful, and I don't view criticism as disrespect. I don't view criticism as disrespect. In fact, I view criticism as helping and aiding my efforts to become a better fucking human being. Is that not the fucking goal of life? Is that the part of the goal of being on the left is not just to transform the world and the society that we're in, but to make ourselves into better fucking human beings. And we cannot do that without self criticism. We cannot do that without hearing others, especially those who occupy spaces that are more marginalized and more targeted by the state than our own. And that requires self awareness, humility, and self criticism. And it's part of the big reason why I hate Wonder Bread Tube because of their fucking arrogance. We've seen how many times Emma Vigeland turns fucking red and rolls her eyes and huffs and puffs, literally huffs and puffs. We've seen how Hassan immediately starts telling people to suck his D and this and that. We've seen his anti-blackness. Fucking uh, the hood starts slipping. We see it, and it's like I don't understand being like that. I really don't. When I was less accepting of criticism and I knew somebody was right, I would just shut the fuck up because I was like, I got nothing to say. I got nothing to say, bro. I got no comeback. So I just be quiet, like fucking. Yeah, you're fucking right. I remembered one of the worst insults I got was being called inconsiderate by some fucking veterano. I don't fuck with those OG fucking Chicano ass fools. Fucking self-hating racist, misogynist, the list goes on and on. But regardless of all that bullshit, homie was right. I was being inconsiderate. And it didn't take much for me to consider other people, you know, beyond me. And I can make excuses, I can rationalize it, but fuck that shit. So ever since that day, one of my main objectives is to be considerate. And I know it sounds funny. I know it sounds very little, but yeah, it doesn't take much to stop and be like, how would I feel about this? How would I feel about this? It's that fucking simple. If I'm seeing the world and so-called leftists with a platform ignoring this struggle that I'm either experiencing personally or uh, my people are experiencing or that I just simply care about and nobody's talking on it, How would I feel about that? How would I feel about that? I'd be pretty fucking upset. And at a certain point, I would stop engaging people in the most polite and sweet and manner possible. So yeah, fuck. I mean, I'm here for it. Yeah, definitely let us know if any literature that we should be reading in regards to Sudan. That would help a lot. This external support was compounded by Russia's support of the RSF via the now disbanded Wagner Group, further solidifying the militia's power base. In 2017, Bashir strengthened his ties with Russia, which then prompted the now disbanded Wagner Group to create a security and gold mining partnership with the RSF. This opened a new source of income for the RSF as they controlled vast gold mines in North Darfur, as well as mines in South Darfur and East Darfur, bordering Central Africa Republic and South Sudan, respectively. This is why, like, it's funny to me because, and the gray zone does this a lot. The gray zone does this a lot. Bro, like, we can be critical of US involvement in destabilization efforts. That doesn't mean we fucking glorify Russia. That doesn't mean we glorify anyone that is being attacked by America, by the United States Empire. Guess what? You could be fucking critical of both parties, and sure, you should be hypercritical of your own government without a doubt, no questions asked. But there's no need to glorify anyone else because then you realize that they're not the good guys either. They're not the worst, but we're doing lesser fucking two evils in geopolitics now. It's not enough for because supposedly these people are against the lesser two evils when it comes to voting within the belly of the beast. But suddenly it's okay when it doesn't, when there's no effects on you personally. Fuck out of here. It is, our responsibility to be as informed as possible and as critical of these fucking capitalist states. Some of these fucking things are fucking oligarchies, like straight up. The Wagner Group in Venezuela as well. Hmm. Hmm. I guess so. Or maybe speculation, perhaps. Well, who the fuck is DD News though? .gov. They must be legitimate. It's taking forever to load. Putin rushes to help Maduro sends Wagner Group to Venezuela as Trump beats the drum war. Fuck. You know what though? Putin is probably licking his fucking chops, hoping that the U.S. does invade Venezuela, so that they could get into their own quack. We could get into our own quagmire like he has in Ukraine. Hmm. All right, so yeah, I guess so. It's still alleged, but yeah, I guess mercenaries. It's cool. Wagner Group or main Senate. The transitional struggle and intensified pressure. Following Bashir's toppling, Dr. Abdallah Hamdok, a former high ranking UN official, became the prime minister. But his transitional government was quickly faced with severe internal and external conflicts. On the military side, the SAF was headed by Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, a senior Bashir-era army officer who was in charge of military operations in Darfur and was appointed as the head of the Transitional Military Council (TMC). The RSF was led by Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, nicknamed Hemeti, and it was appointed as the deputy head of the TMC. As the RSF, SAF, and various political forces sought foreign backers, the United States intensified pressure on the transitional government. The U.S. pressured Sudan to sign the Abraham Accords and normalize relations with Israel in 2020. Uh, the fucking priorities. The priorities. Ah, hold on. Old man over here. Give me one sec. Old man, look at my life. I'm a whole lot like you. Yeah, I went to go train finally yesterday, and uh, that's not good either. And I'm feeling it. I'm fucking feeling it. It was great though. We got to do a lot of technical sparring, which is always fun. And I wasn't as out of shape as I thought I would be. This article is Sudan, Africa's Regional Neo-Colonial War by Mossab Baba, who was apparently on the Morning Remix show on Black Liberation Media yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, from what I heard. The U.S. pressured Sudan to sign the Abraham Accords and normalize relations with Israel in 2020, positioning the nation to officially become the backyard of the new Middle East, a term later coined by Netanyahu in 2023. Additionally, the U.S. demanded that Sudan pay hundreds of millions in compensation for terrorism attacks and continued to pressure the government to implement harsh austerity measures and lift essential subsidies. This pressure was seen as wins for both Trump and Biden administrations. However, it also created discontent in the streets and gave the Bashir regime loyalists a reason to ride the anti-US wave and plot against the civilian government. This period also saw fierce competition among regional powers attempting to secure ports along the Red Sea. Turkey, the UAE, and Russia have all attempted to strike deals with the government to secure these ports and gain influence in the crucial Red Sea trade corridor. As the pressure of competition intensified, foreign actors solidified their control over the two major military factions. It's just always like, and yeah, the whole conversation of whether Russia or China are imperialists or not, to me, it's a little exhausting because I'm like, all right, that's cool. Like, whether you want to categorize them as imperialists or not, it's almost irrelevant to the fact that they are meddling and fucking around and helping and destabilizing, regions that they want to benefit from. That might not be technically fucking imperialism. Cool. They're still fucking around, in other people's backyards for their own interests, not for trying to help, aid and abet anyone in any significant way. And Walker, they are. Again, like for me, like if you notice, this like I don't really engage in those type of conversations here. One, I don't think I'm informed enough, but two, like There's also other people doing that stuff, like Bad Empanada, Ben Norton. Those people are really kind of like into that type of shit. To me, I'm more concerned about the effect that they're having on the people on the ground. So I don't know if I fucking prioritize that shit, you know. But I could hear the argument of saying, well, it's important to call accurately describe them as imperialist or not. Battery not charged. The fuck? Why aren't you? There we go. All right. Egypt, driven by motivations including border security, the issue of Grand Ethiopian Renaissance, dam, GERD, GERD, and Nile water access, and the pursuit of regional hegemony, solidified its control over the SAF through support and political coercion. Egypt supposedly even pushed Al Burhan to covertly support the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, in its war in Addis Ababa, where at the height of the war in Ethiopia, Burhan suddenly mobilized the army to take back the disputed Fashaga era that borders Ethiopia. The timing of the mobilization was odd given the region has been disputed for decades. It just so happened to border the TPLF controlled areas. And a lot of this shit sounds like fucking maybe it's my childish like fucking brain of like a lot of this stuff comes off like conspiracy theory shit, right? Like, nah, they wouldn't start a war just over like this or that little shit. And they're like, no, it's just for resources and geopolitical uh strategy. Literally does not get more complicated as we want what's on that land or we want that hill. The UAE, on the other hand, has not only propped up the RSF, but excuse me. Why is that? I want to say like practice. Hold on. Hmm. There's always one, huh? There's always one. The fuck? Yeah, I'm losing it. I'm telling you simple fucking words sometimes. Not more than sometimes. Read N.P. Turner's book. What is it called? I don't know. I don't know what. Ed Walker. What is the book called? All right. Where are we? The UAE, on the other hand, has not only propped up the RSF, but it practiced neo-colonial policy in Sudan across many sectors of Sudanese life. The UAE's sub-imperialism, as described by writer Hussam Majoub, involved expanding its cooperation with the RSF by supplying arms, securing gold mines, and trade in livestock and agriculture. Adding to its increasing footprint in the continent, the RSF became the UAE's main actor in Africa while expanding its influence to Chad, South Sudan, Ethiopia, and maintaining a strong relationship with the Libyan warlord Khalif Haftar. However, the UAE hasn't been working alone, as they were the first signatories to the Abraham Accords and have created a tight bond with Israel. This normalization gave the UAE green light to play an increasingly neo-colonial role in Africa, with outsourcing of US empire ambitions to regional actors who were not in the picture as recently as 15 years ago. The map below, showing the flow of arms from the UAE, illustrates how this emboldened the RSF during the 2023 war, but making sure it had allies across the border that worked under the directive of the UAE. I wrote to thank you. All right. UAE's economic and logistical footprint in East Africa. Jeez, bro. People are making mad money with this. So the ones in red, Link Network accuses of supporting RSF. The ones in blue, DP Worldport terminals and logistic platforms. The ones in yellow or gold, mining investments, what makes sense is gold. And the ones in green, other major investments, energy slash airports. Jesus, bro. The money's just fucking flowing. The 2023 war. The path to the 23 war was set in October 2021 when both Burham and the military leader, Hameti, overthrew the civilian government of Dr. Hamdok. Efforts in 2022 to avoid a conflict, including a framework agreement proposed by political forces that would have restructured the military. While the exact provocation is still debated, it is suspected that the former Bashir loyalists in the SAF initiated the conflict, though the RSF was ready and willing to fight due to their strong foreign backing. Fuck. It's all about preparation. It's all about preparation. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Damn. When the war began, the primary regional alliances became clear. Egypt firmly backed the SAF, while while the UAE backed the RSF. Second tier support for the SAF included Turkey, Eritrea, and Iran, while the RSF received second tier support from Chad and Kenya as conduits for arms. As the war intensified, each side of the war started garnering support from different actors, including Somalia, South Sudan, and Libya. As the violence spread and millions became displaced, the effects of the war spread to these countries. South Sudan's economy collapsed due to the halting of oil pipelines that go through Sudan. As millions were displaced, and over 20 millions are in dire need of humanitarian aid. Excuse me. Just want to double check that. As millions were displaced and over 20 million are in dire need of humanitarian assistance, foreign actors started to intervene in efforts to mediate. The BRICS countries attempted to quell the regional conflict in 2023, partly by adding adversaries like Egypt and Ethiopia, along with Iran, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, to the alliance. I don't know about that. I mean, just bringing them in house isn't going to solve everything, bro. But also keeping them out of the party would be an issue, right? BRICS supposedly negotiated the equivocation of Burham from the military headquarters in August 2023, which was under siege by the RSF. The assumption was that Burham would leave the military headquarters in Khartoum and join the negotiation in Jeddah. Excuse me, Jeddah. However, Burnham saw this as an opportunity to regroup the SAF forces and their alliance and seek to gain regional and international legitimacy for the fight against the RSF. Man, these acronyms are killing me. Red Sea. The Gulf states' neocolonialism in East Africa is also about land grab and water, especially as global warming accelerates. Yeah. That part, bro. That part. Violet. Yeah, I believe it was Ace. All credit to Ace for putting me on check. And Walker, if I wasn't a communist, I'd be a bricks guy all the way. I see the appeal. Yeah, right. It's so convenient to just be like, oh, I think these are the good guys, or this is my team. Ace, Sudan was called the largest humanitarian crisis on Earth last year, and this was all ignored. Yep. And I was part of the problem. So Goth, she's black. I've been reading the Revolutionary Charter for establishing people's power, a doc to gain more insight on what people on the ground think. Let me see. What is this? The Revolutionary Charter for establishing Jesus, people's power. I'm not interested. Hmm. If you have a little bit more context, so Goth, I'd appreciate it. Sounds interesting. Jesus. I saw a report on how you could see the bodies piled up from satellite and still nobody said a word. It is heartbreaking. Red Sea, the Gulf states will not fare well in global warming. They've already land lease in Tanzania, for example, displacing the Maasai. Wow. I think the way that China, untelevised, has carried itself and acted during the genocide of Palestinians, when they could have garnered so much public support internationally, I think it just highlights that they don't give a fuck about anything other than their own, um, yeah, other than securing their own well being. I know it might be harsh or simplistic, but or maybe they're always people always want to play up like China is, and I do think this is part of like Orientalism, is they always want to play it up like just China and the Chinese are like 4D chess, 20 moves ahead of us, thinking in centuries or whatever bullshit that is. They're just fucking human beings like the rest of us. Stop. Stop. They increased their trade during a fucking genocide with the Zionist entity. So it's just they're not the Soviet Union, for better or for worse. They're not the Soviet Union. They're not here arming, socialist, anti-colonial, anti-imperialist forces. They're just not. They don't think that's in their best interest. And honestly, it probably isn't. So let's just try to be as honest and as informative as possible. Let's see. Other efforts include the US leading the Quad, US, Egypt, UAE, Saudi, in attempts to pressure the SAF and RSF to negotiate. Ultimately, the African Union is poised to facilitate an inclusive political dialogue once a ceasefire is achieved. The Sudanese war serves as a tragic analogy. The nation has become high value commodity caught in a global auction. Global auction is just so fucking wildly accurate. Where the SAF and RSF are merely the proxies bidding with foreign supply arms, rather than independent political actors fighting for national interest. They're not even doing it for their own fucking like self uh interest in terms of as a nation, right? Not even that. Fuck. They're literally like advocating, or they're fighting for and dying for, killing for being the puppet That's what they're doing. Carrying out a genocide for the goal of being a fucking puppet. Wow. Man. Let's take a little break with this here. Was Wise the Dome. We've seen this before, but we're gonna hop around a little bit.
Cannon fodder, applied knowledge and insight, a born scholar. Look like a martyr to marauders like Tartar. Wise owl slaughter, whack MCs order applauder. Original woman, decipher the womb. Crown of creation, fruit of the planet, earth and the moon.
The daughter of the fodder. Yeah, damn. All right.
Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to another episode of Wise the Dome TV. Today, I have a very special guest. It's
Ace, thank you for the super chat. Your willingness to take accountability makes me feel bad. LOL. I've been a fan of Dr. Bob because you put me onto him, but I'm nervous to meet him because I'd have to press him on the Sudan stuff. Yo, we choose to be on here. We choose to be on here. Nobody is forcing us to open our fucking mouths. Nobody's forcing us to turn on a fucking camera. Nobody's forcing us to do this. So maybe because my channel's so small, but I lack sympathy for people unwilling to hear criticism. I lack sympathy for people unwilling to hear criticism. And look, you approached me, I think, in a respectful manner. Don't feel bad. I think it was a legitimate criticism. And I'm not going to speak for Dr. Ball, but what I will say is I don't think your approach was in any way disrespectful or negative. So no, don't feel bad. What the fuck? But yes, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it, Ace. Untelevised, you should watch that interview on stream as one of the interviewers actually brought up China's stance during the genocide with Dr. Horn. What was the name of that interview? Because we did go over. I do agree with what Gerald Horn said recently in an interview about acknowledging the criticism of China, valid, while also not alienating the possible. Yeah, we read that earlier. Okay. Okay.
always an honor to build with Dr. Gerald Horn. You guys know him from all the books and from being one of the most important intellectuals in our movement. And so again, it's always an honor to have him on. Dr. Gerald Horn, how are you doing?
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I wanted to have you on to kind of have get some post-election analysis of obviously, what's going on now with Donald Trump winning the election. And so one of the first things I wanted to ask you is something that I've noticed online and just through various clips and even seeing clips of different news shows. And I saw, the one thing I wanted to ask you, because you're always able to give not only a political but a historical analysis of these things. But how does the support for Trump among certain segments of minority groups, such as like the Mexican community, reflect a broader impact of European colonialism on collective consciousness, particularly among those who emphasize their legal status in the US without acknowledging that this land was taken from indigenous peoples, many of whom were those same Mexican people who voted for Trump's ancestors? Do you think failing to recognize the United States as a settler colonial project fundamentally skews one's understanding of race, immigration, and belonging in this country?
I don't even think I have the fucking capability of constructing such a fucking awesome question. Sheesh. Like literally boom, 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 hit all the fucking points. And the thing is, Normally, I would say, that kind of question was a little too wordy, a little too much. Like, there's a lot to answer there. But when you're dealing with someone of the knowledge, the intellect, and just Dr. Horn, when you're dealing with someone like that, you can get away with a question like that, and you should ask questions like that. You know what I mean? Like, when somebody's that intelligent and knowledgeable, you don't want to bore them with easy fucking questions. You want to add the asterisks. You want to add the layers to those questions, because that is like their expertise. They're going to go down that route anyways. So you're essentially helping them out in giving them the guideposts that you want to hit along the way. For most people, you do want to, keep the question concise so they could directly answer it. But for Dr. Horn, you can provide those multiple targets within that, because he will fucking take them out flawlessly. And I love the question too, because it does emphasize, like, yeah, like if you're of Mexican descent and you're kind of like flexing your nationality and your citizenship status and you're voting for Trump and all this shit, but you're not acknowledging that you are benefiting from being on stolen land without question. Like, I'm first generation. My family came here as economic refugees. They didn't come here because they wanted to fucking be in a new place. They didn't come here because they just wanted to try something. They wanted to be discriminated against by gringos. No, they came here out of necessity, right? I'm a bastard of colonization, and we came here for necessities. But if we're not acknowledging these are just people that were taken, that this land was taken from, then we're failing and we're contributing to the Americanization, to the settler colonial project. And this is why I oppose Chicanismo. That's why I fucking mock these, Chicanos and their love for the US and their patriotism. Because it's a fucking poison.
Well, certainly it does. Speaking of which, in the New York Times of November 10th, 2024, there's an article by the writer Thomas Frank. You may know him as the author of the book, What's the Matter with Kansas? He's
fuck Thomas Frank and fuck fucking US populism.
Considered a man of the left. And yet he says that when he went to an exhibit in Washington, D.C. a few months ago and saw that on one of the exhibits was appended the phrase settler colonialism, to which he apparently objected, he knew that Mr. Trump would win, because that would alienate many settlers who happen to be the majority.
Can you imagine Thomas Frank being in that fucking museum and just be like, no, as soon as he saw settler colonialism, he's like, Trump is gonna win, and just running out crying like, no, why? Fuck. We listened to this a couple of times, but this is just a setup, and we're gonna jump around a little bit. We're not gonna watch the entirety of the 53 minutes, but this is just a setup for the punchline on duct tape.
And so this was telling for a number of reasons. One, he's a person of the left, a person you would think would have some sensitivity, or at least some sense. And then secondly, he inferentially confirms that people can't handle the truth. I mean,
right.
Native Americans originally controlled this land in North America. At a certain point, there was a European invasion where they took the land, liquidated the indigenous, and then brought in free African labor, enslaved labor, to help make them wealthy. Now, we're not supposed to say that because it makes the settlers uncomfortable. It makes little Johnny and little Jennifer feel badly about themselves. And so, therefore, we can't not deal with truth. And if you can't deal with truth, that means you can't deal with reality. But I think that we must deal with truth. We must deal with reality. And I would say further that I'm very disappointed with part of the aftermath of this election. You might have seen the comment by Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, quote, Democratic Socialists, so-called, where he said the problem was there's too much focus on identity politics and not enough on class. Now, first of all, I'm not sure what this term identity politics means. I hear it all the time.
We hear it all the fucking time, don't we? We hear it all the fucking time. It's a goddamn dog whistle. It's a goddamn. Okay, Bernie Sanders, not specifying what he means by identity politics, tells you everything you need to know because he's a fucking Zionist. Zionism is a branch of white supremacy. Zionism is a branch of white supremacy. So it makes sense the same way that he was praising Trump for his border policies. Let me see here. Let me find it real quick. Real quick. Let me see here. We'll do that one next, and then we'll do that one tomorrow. All right. Let's see. Actually, oh, nope, not that. This. One last time. A little traumatized now. Yeah, border. Okay. Let me pull this up, and we have it. Awesome.
If you don't have any borders, then you don't have a nation, right? In a sense. So has historically the United States done well under Democrats and Republicans in protecting the border? The answer is no. Trump did a better job. I don't like Trump, but we should have a secure border. And it ain't that hard to do. Biden didn't do it. Those before him did not do it. We should have a secure border, period. If you don't have any border.
It ain't that hard to do. Imagine what he would have done, bro. Imagine what he would have done. Imagine what Bernie, the Zionist Sanders, with his National Socialism, what he would have done along the border. It would have been catastrophic. And AOC would have been right there smiling. Sam Cedar, Emma Vigeland, and Hassan Piker would have been just downplaying it. And he's straight up lying, too. He's lying, or he's that much of a, he's Zionist, so maybe he really is that much of a fucking, rabid xenophobe. Maybe he is. Because to say that Joe Biden didn't do anything on the border, to say that those before him, Obama, the reporter in chief, didn't do anything about the border, and you're praising Trump, it just, man, this guy is such a National Socialist, to the core. And this is, the leader of Wonder Bread 2. This is the man leading this political movement of Zohran Mamdani, of Alejandro Ocasio-Cortez. This is the guy. This is their fucking hero. This is their political hero. Who's your political hero? And compare it to this is theirs. This is theirs. Whether yours is fucking Stalin, Mao, Lenin, fucking doesn't matter. This is theirs. Understand that. They would have been, without question, understand that they would have been out there saying, yeah, it's not right that we're rounding up the Japanese Americans, but the safety and security of the country depends on it because we're going to war. They would have 100% been making excuses for the internment of Japanese Americans. That's how fucking disgusting and white supremacist these people are. And this whole conflation of, American supremacy. Yes, you could be an American supremacist. But being an American supremacist does not entail that you yourself are a white supremacist. And yet, if you are an American and you are a white supremacist, you are inherently an American supremacist. You are inherently, somebody wanting to fight for Western civilization. So it's a nuance without a difference. I don't fucking know what to call it. I just don't like the fact that these white people are trying to hide from the reality that their favorites, Grant Platter, Bernie Sanders, they are white supremacists. It makes them uncomfortable. I don't know why they fucking excused and voted for Joe Biden. So, I was there.
I presume that it might even mean black people complaining about being shot down in the street like dogs, for example. And I assume what they mean is that you're not allowed to complain about it unless you can organize a multiracial bloc. Now, they don't tell that to the American Jewish Committee. You have to be integrated. Your ranks have to be diversified. before you can raise your voice against anti-Jewish bigotry. I mean, I assume what Senator Sanders is pointing to is the fact
I love that. I assume
that the Republicans got a lot of mileage out of anti-trans ads. One was quite effective, according to their spokesperson, is that they said that Kamala is in favor of they and them, Trump is in favor of you. But the problem is that since Senator Sanders is so ambiguous, you don't know what he's talking about. And I guess he doesn't want to single out this besieged trans community. So he just says identity politics. And then Senator Sanders, above all, should know that over the last 75 years, Washington has conducted a movement, quite successful movement, against left-leaning trade unions. It led to a split in the labor movement, the ousting of Harry Bridges' West Coast Longshore from the House of Labor, the purging of many progressive trade unionists on the spurious grounds that they were so-called socialists or communists. And that helps to account in no small measure for what Mr. Sanders sees as an inattention to the class question. And so he should be educating people about this instead of throwing around very ill-considered ideas, which then brings me to the other question.
But that's the thing, like, Bernie's not really interested in educating his fucking acolytes, his followers, his cult, in anything that isn't fucking class reductionist. He's not. He does not give a fuck. He does not care. He said it himself. He's willing to praise Donald Trump while ICE is kidnapping people. While ICE is kidnapping people. And Bernie Sanders is praising Donald Trump's efforts to secure the border. That's how much of a fucking xenophobe. That's how much of a fucking nationalist Bernie Sanders is. And do you hear anyone on the left talking about this or pushing back against it? And I'll be fair, because I think I saw like a clip of this. Let me switch over. Oh, we got, where are we at? Well, this helps a lot more. All right. Yeah, I don't care about that. I think it's I try to be as fair as possible. Maybe he does say something informative here.
If you don't have any borders, then you don't have a nation, right? In a sense. So has historically the United States done well on the Democrats and Republicans in protecting the border? The answer is no. Trump did a better job. I don't like Trump, but we should have.
There's no shot.
And it ain't that hard.
You don't have internet. Stop. Bernie, don't do it. Don't do it, Bern. Don't do it, Bern, dog. It has to be out of context, right? There's no shot.
And it ain't that hard.
God. Immediately saying it has to be out of context. He's a fucking Zionist, you moron.
But we should have a secure border.
He doesn't have internet. He don't have internet. He don't have internet. He don't have internet. Stop.
He's doing the AAVE. You guys get that reference, right? He don't have internet. He don't have internet. Like, why do you AAVE like that, bro? Like, what the fuck? Easily, I mean, bro, like, why? I hate when white people do that, bro. I hate when brown people do it too. But depending on proximity, I'm like, okay, maybe you do honestly like generally cultural exchange like that. Oh. The amount of black people that I know that have cursing out in Spanish. There is such thing as cultural exchange, whatever. I get it, but you could tell when somebody plays it up like that. When one of my homies started fucking talking more in Spanish, I got a little suspicious. I was like, oh, that's cool, whatever. And then this motherfucker starts sending me memes in Spanish, and I'm like, stop. I'm like, what's her name, bro? What's her name? I'm like, stop this shit, bro. You're not, look, everyone learns how to curse in a different language, whatever, but you're not ja to these fucking memes in Spanish. without somebody putting you on. uh, Jesus. You don't get the reference in Walker. It's a basketball reference. I forget who the basketball player was. I don't follow basketball. Was wearing the skull with the blue line for the Blue Lives Matters, and I forgot who defended them. They're both like pretty famous basketball players. I just don't follow ball sports, and he's like, "Oh no, he doesn't have internet." It's like, nah, you guys are like criticizing him, but he doesn't have internet. He just thought it looked cool. Who was it? Skull Blue. James Harding. Yeah, and the excuse was by one of his teammates, I believe, that he doesn't have internet. He just thought it looked cool. And the thing is, it does look badass, right? But that's such a ridiculous, like, it's such an outlandish excuse. Such an outlandish excuse. It's Young Thug and James Harding. Oh, okay. Okay. It was Young Thug. That's fucking funny, bro. That's such a left field fucking like somebody sticking up for you. Like you would assume it would be his teammate, right? Like I didn't know who it was. But I got the reference. Yeah, okay, all right. Look, I know that Young Thug is a rapper. I'm not that fucking old. True. He may not have internet, but he should have a PR team. Well, no, but Bernie has always been a nationalist. I mean, Michael Parenti talked about this years ago. You know what? The queer community, and that's a heavy fucking conversation. I'm sure it's been covered, right? Let me know if somebody knows any good videos of the white queer community thinking that they could fucking just be straight up culture vultures, just straight up unrepentant, unabashed, unashamed culture vultures. The white queer community might be like the most proactive, shameless culture vultures. And that, I mean, that is a high bar to cross. What was it? Like if you look at, I know I spelled their name wrong. Billie Eilish, when she came out and she started dressing like this, bro, what are you doing? Why are you people like this, bro? And who was it? Was it? I know somebody called her out for this. Yeah. Untelevised. As a white settler, trans woman, the white queer community hates me for my criticism.
Have a secure border. He doesn't have internet. He don't have internet. He don't have internet. He don't have internet. Stop.
He don't have internet. Bro.
Bernie, don't do it. Don't do it, Bern. Don't do it, Bern, dog. It has to be out of context, right? There's no shot.
And it ain't that hard to do. Biden didn't do it.
B. Lavigne or BB Lavigne. She stole Soldier Boy's fit from the early 2000s. They fucking all do it. I don't get it.
Now we know why he loves Grand Platinum, bro. He said, no nations without borders. Get these goddamn Mexicans out of here, man. With their salsa hips, they're dancing, and they're taking our jobs. He don't have internet. Stop.
See, this is a frustrating part. Recognizes that Grant Plattner acknowledges he's a white supremacist, but jokes about it. Jokes about Bernie Sanders being a fucking xenophobe. He is. Why is that? Wait, why is that funny? You can make fun of it if you're sincerely criticizing him and categorizing him and making it public and making your audience aware to know that Bernie Sanders is a xenophobe, that he's a Zionist, that he's a national socialist, and that we should oppose him. But instead of being sincere in where those jokes are rooted, you immediately go back to your AAVE. He don't got internet. He don't got internet.
For him to not do it, we should have a secure border, period.
Let's see the full vid. I don't even know how he could salvage what this statement is. It seems pretty captured. The essence is pretty captured. This may be the single worst thing Bernie has ever said. Now, this, by the way, used to be Bernie's position in like the night. He was anti-immigration back in the day. He said, I think open borders is a Koch brothers policy, all this stuff.
Sharply raising the level of immigration we permit, even up to a level of open borders, about sharply increasing
open borders.
Open borders.
That's a Koch brothers proposal. The idea, of course, I mean, that's a right-wing proposal, which says essentially there is no United States.
But it would make a lot of global poor richer, wouldn't it?
And it'd make everybody in America poor. Then you're doing away with the concept of a nation state. And I don't think there's any country in the world which believes in that.
Come on.
He's been a nationalist. Will Hassan call him a national socialist? Absolutely not. You'll never hear him call him that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he says it in the next sentence. That's what people need to understand. My criticism of these rad libs, Hassan Piker is a rad lib. He just LARPs as a socialist, communist, depending on his fucking platform that he's on. My criticism of them, like, I want them to prove me wrong. I would love for Hassan Piker, for Sam Cedar, with their millions of subscribers and viewers, to actually be leftists. That would be fucking awesome. They're not, though. And they won't call Bernie Sanders a fucking Zionist.
Someone send me the OG, please. He was on the Tim Dillon show. What the is going on? What the is going on? He went on the Tim Dillon show to be like, open borders are a cancer on society. We must abolish all Guatemalans. What the
They're a position that the Democratic Party can take.
Literally that, bro. Like, it could be funny if you're being honest and you're honestly like criticizing him and holding him accountable. You could make that a funny joke. It'll be difficult, but you could make it happen if you had the intelligence and authenticity. If you were sincere, if you were honest. He's neither of those things, ever. But if you're making that joke and not going to hold Bernie accountable, at the very least, present him appropriately to your audience as a national socialist, as a xenophobe, then what the fuck is the joke for then? The joke then becomes to downplay Bernie's nationalism. That's what the joke is for, to downplay it, to normalize it, to treat it as a joke, so that when his audience hears accurate criticism of Bernie Sanders as a national socialist, they could dismiss it. Because Hassan joked about it, so we can joke about it. We could dismiss it as a joke. And that is the goal of this style of propaganda for the Democratic Party. And yes, I understand Bernie's independent, but he's a sheepdog for the Democratic Party.
That is obviously anti-people getting dragged out of their houses, but recognizes that citizenship should mean something, that we should have a border, and that, you know, having laws that protect workers is important, and that people employing...
Stalin will be fully vindicated in this interview. Oh, no. Oh, no. Social democracy. Social democracy. Oh, no. Social democrats are social fascists. Oh, no.
undocumented workers or illegal labor is driving down wages for Americans.
All right, you've asked a lot of very important questions, good questions. Let's start off with the basic. So long as we have nation states, right, which we have, you got to have borders, right?
Yeah, Stalin deported no one. Okay, interior deportations is different. This is not a defense of Stalin. Okay, calm down.
If you don't have any borders, then you don't have a nation, right, in a sense. So has historically...
Yeah, Stalin and Bernie, fucking identical, bro.
The United States done well on...
We must take these Tatars all the way to Siberia.
The Democrats and Republicans are protecting the border. The answer is no. Trump did a better job. I don't like Trump, but we should have a secure border. And it ain't that hard to do. Biden didn't do it. Those before him did not do it. We should have a secure border, period. I think most people in the Congress agree with that.
Why don't you think he did it, just out of curiosity?
Pardon me?
Bro, this is so dumb, okay? The reason why this is dumb is because the open border position is just right-wing framing. There is no like actual open border. The notion that everyone's coming in, everyone's rushing in the country, like it's stupid. Okay. It's so idiotic. The best way to quote unquote secure our borders is to make sure that people have a legal and expeditious process to come in. When people talk about a more tolerant approach to migration, or when people talk about like reforms in this vein, they're not saying like, you know, all systems go, do whatever the you want. Okay. They're talking about having a fair and just process in which people can come, get their documentation, get their proper vetting, proper background checks, proper visas, and can just work within the U.S. boundaries. That's it. I don't like this phrase. No matter who says it, it's ridiculous. The United States had mostly open borders until 1882, and it took until 2012 for the southern border to be secured enough that a majority of people crossing were caught. Were we not a nation until 13 years ago? As far as like people also going in and out of this hypothetical boundary that we've created, however, there is no reason to actually walk into the interior of the United States of America without proper documentation if the proper documentation is open, is an easy process, a just process. You understand? As far as when people talk about open borders, they...
Bro, my God. All this to still fucking be supporting Bernie. All this to still be supporting Bernie.
Create this false reality. They create this complete false reality where people are just like walking in and out, all this shit. And are there some who do actually cross the border illegally? Absolutely. But the most effective solution for that is not increased militancy. The most effective solution to that is to ensure that people are properly vetted and walking into the country securely. When people always say, oh, why don't they come in the right way? A lot of people don't understand that there is no real right way. And that is by design. Okay. There is no fast, effective, and secure way to come into the United States, quote unquote, the right way. The right way takes decades sometimes. And that's if you're immensely fortunate and immensely lucky at the same time. I understand when people say the concept of a nation state didn't even exist until relatively recently, which is true, right? The idea that we have like nations with defined boundaries and defined borders, and that there's like a consistent guard at those borders that stop travel from happening. This is a ridiculous notion. For the longest time, that didn't happen. That was not a real thing. Okay. You just like kind of walk wherever the you wanted to, or horse wherever the you wanted to. Okay. Or boat wherever the you wanted to until not that long ago. And the reason why it was fine was because people are just people. Like most people don't make this trek.
Where's the fucking criticism for Bernie?
Because they want to secretly destroy the United States, okay? Or whatever the other countries or kingdoms at the time before nation states existed. So it's stupid. But even with the new concept, the relatively new concept of a nation state with well-defined boundaries and borders, okay? What we fail to consider is that the human condition is still very much the same, okay? The human condition is still very much the same. People are not traveling into the United States. They're not horsing into the United States now, okay? But they're not walking into the United States to be like, I'm from Guatemala and I really want to up here in America. The idea that this is the reality is unfortunately a very commonly held position. Is very stupid. I don't know how to explain it to people. So the fact that Bernard is hitting these stupid ass lines is frustrating. That's why I said he don't got internet. I think that would be way more defensible phrase, not a secure nation. But my point was,
bro, how many times is he gonna do the AAV? How many times is he gonna do that? It's just so fucking weird. It's so fucking weird, bro. Not only that, it's like he's talking about it being frustrating that he's hitting these points. Like, what do you mean frustrating, bro? How is this frustrating? This isn't frustrating. This is like part of the course. Or part or the course. How do you say that? Let's find out. Yeah, par for the course. I know words.
Par for the course.
What is normal or expected in any given circumstances. He said it himself. Oh, that used to be his position. No, it was his position. He just hold that. He was quiet about it. The same way that he's always been a lifelong Zionist. He was just quiet about it. Now, I think I gave him 7 minutes, enough time to actually be critical of Bernie Sanders. Hasn't been. And I can't stand hearing his fucking fake SoCal vocal fry voice. We did finish this. Awesome. Okay.
71 million strong Trump base that voted for him includes many workers, many middle-class elements. But let's focus on the workers for a minute. So supposedly they voted for Trump because the Democrats were not sufficiently to the left. Well, why did they vote for the Green Party? Right. Why did they vote for Cornel West if they're looking for a left-wing candidate? Right. And so what folks are doing, as ever, is concocting threadbare rationalizations and justifications for Euro-American backwardness. This has a long pedigree in the United States of America. You may be familiar with the concept of the mid-19th century known as squatter sovereignty.
I need that drop. I need that drop. It's definitely going to be a drop. Making excuses for Euro-American backwardness. Too fucking accurate. Too fucking good. And it's so fucking... Like, I'm going to fucking break the button on that one.
And justifications for Euro-American backwardness.
Oh, man.
Middle class elements. But let's focus on the workers for a minute. So supposedly they voted for Trump because the Democrats were not sufficiently to the left. Well, why did they vote for the Green Party? Right. Why did they vote for Cornel West if they're looking for a left-wing candidate?
Right.
And so what folks are doing, as ever, is concocting threadbare rationalizations and justifications for Euro-American backwardness.
That's going to be the drop right there. That's going to be the fucking drop. Man, gotta love Dr. Horn.
This has a long pedigree in the United States of America. You may be familiar with the concept of the mid-19th century known as squatter sovereignty. This said if settlers squatted on Native American land and there was a majority of them in favor of that, then that was kosher. That was good,
right?
Even though it was Native American land. And so there's this still extant idea that a majority of settlers, whatever they do, you can't criticize it. You can't call it deplorable, for example. You can talk about fascism a week ago. It's on the ballot. But if the person designated as a fascist prevails and supported by a majority of settler descendants, which he was, then I guess we have to accept it, for example. And an important tell.
It's about always coddling white people. It's always about coddling white people. Always about coddling, and it's always about their fucking feelings and their sentiment. Because they'll fucking break down and get violent like that.
Is that many in the United States have justifiably pointed across the Atlantic at Israel as a settler state. If I were an Israeli patriot, I would say, well, what about you folks in North America? Aren't you a settler state too? And what's interesting about these settler states is that we know that in one sense, if you combine Israel and the occupied territories, there's an Arab majority. If you just look at Israel proper, there's a 20% Arab population. Everybody who knows anything about Israel knows that in order to effectuate significant change, you not only need a majority, you need a Jewish majority. And likewise, people don't recognize that in order to effectuate change in this country, oftentimes you need a settler majority. And
it's why Bernie Sanders and these people are against immigration. It's why Bernie Sanders is against immigration, because he wants to guarantee a European majority here. They're white supremacists, and it's so frustrating that it's like, why am I the only person saying this shit? Why am I the only person saying this shit when, sorry, I'm not the only person saying this. Why isn't Wonder Bread saying this? They claim to be anti-racist. They claim to be against white supremacy. They claim to be on the left. Why aren't they saying this as well? Why don't they see Bernie Sanders as a white supremacist when we know for a fact that he's a Zionist? And now he's out here talking about praising Donald Trump, kidnapping people, and securing the fucking borders. Lying that Biden, that Obama weren't doing enough to secure the border. And you see people like Hassan Piker either try to dismiss it, joke around it, try to rationalize it for their audience, but never accuse Bernie Sanders of being a white supremacist, of being a fucking nationalist. They got to protect their favorites. They cannot accurately describe them. The reason why they oppose open borders here is the same reason Bernie Sanders opposes a one-state solution in Palestine. Even that liberal position he's against, because he wants to guarantee that there is a majority of colonizers, so they could dictate a supposed democratic state in the direction that it will go, that it can maintain a European character. And he wants to guarantee the same here. He wants to guarantee the same here. And do you think his emotions change, his sentiment, his allegiance to white supremacy changes when he's talking about the Zionist entity? And when he's talking about this fucking settler colonial project? Absolutely not. Where do you think the Zionists learned how to truly operate a successful national socialist They were trying to establish that. The kibbutz and all that shit were part of it. But to establish a successful settler colonial project from the U.S., same shit that the fucking Nazis were trying to implement with Liebenstrom. Or Lubenstrom, however the fuck you say those words. I don't even like speaking English.
The times when we've been able to evade that is when there's times when there are international currents blowing favorably in our direction. Haitian Revolution, 1791 to 1804, successful revolution of the enslaved leads to a general crisis of the entire slave system, particularly when they move diplomatically in concert with British abolitionists, helping to engender a civil war in the United States. The Lincoln government cannot prevail unless they pass an Emancipation Proclamation allowing them to recruit 200,000+ Black soldiers, the Sable Arm, which destroys slavery. But that's followed quickly by the hateful, spiteful Jim Crow U.S. apartheid system, which then meets its Waterloo in mid-20th century when the rise of a socialist camp competing for hearts and minds with U.S. imperialism and decolonizing Africa and decolonizing Caribbean, creating pressure for the United States to erode the Jim Crow system so they can better appeal to emerging Africa with its vast storehouse of wealth and natural resources. That leads to a retreat of Jim Crow, although, of course, there's a grassroots rebellion against that in Little Rock, Arkansas, in 1957, Central High School, where President Eisenhower had to send in federal troops to protect Black students from being mauled by their Euro-American peers. Killings at Ole Miss campus when James Meredith tries to desegregate in the 1960s, a few later, showing that it was not sectional. You have Euro-American working class and middle class riots in Boston over the busing controversy, which brings me.
I just want to say this, like it is, and we should absolutely, admire this and praise it. Just the information that he has stored in his brain is just amazing. I want to give credit to his positivity, his energy that he always has, because what he's holding is traumatic events, horrific, dehumanizing reality that so many of us aren't aware of or don't know in the detail that he does. And he stores that all in his head. And he still like just has such a positive light and energy that he provides for us when he gives us this information. But remember, he's acquiring this information. He's just going through, doing the deep reading, doing the deep work. And it's not easy, you know what I mean? I remember reading Open Veins in Latin America and like really struggling, like emotionally, to get through that. And it's easy to make that argument that that's removed from me. That while I'm ambassador to colonization, that's removed from me. But these are Dr. Gerald Horner is not a spring chicken. A lot of these things happened to where if he wasn't alive, it's relatively close to him, to where the people that were older to him, that were guiding him, may have experienced or lived throughout it. He's not talking about ancient history in this regard. He's not talking about ancient history. I was just rewatching a video on Adolph Reed, right? Because I know I'm going to make a video on Michael Brooks, the Great White Hope, and the Great White Hope of the left. So I'm like rewatching some videos on Adolph Reed, and I remember that he wrote like a autobiography. And he downplays the Jim Crow South. Downplays that shit. And I'm like, bro, no wonder white people love you. No wonder white people love you. It's just fucking gross. It's sick. But he was old enough to live, through it. So understand, we're not talking about ancient history here.
If you're going to make a clip or meme, make it with this. Given what I've just articulated, if we are to dig ourselves out of this deep hole that we find ourselves, we not only have to learn the lessons of the past that I just articulated. The NAACP, the largest mass organization.
George, you should know exactly why. He was getting on that anti-woke train. Michael Brooks was getting on that anti-woke train. That's going to be the anchor of the video.
Political organization, perhaps not if you count religious organizations, but political organizations, they need to call a conference in Ottawa, Canada for June 2025. Focus on blocking the mass deportation of at least 300,000 Haitians, it may be 500,000 or more, and the others who are slated for mass deportation. Trump is serious about this. As a matter of fact, the investor class has been able to bid up the valuation of stocks from the prison industrial complex because they expect there to be massive government expenditures for these roundup camps, which of course can easily be used for some of us down the road. I say Ottawa, Canada, because we should make sure that invitations are issued to those who will have a beef with the Trump administration. The government of Cuba has an embassy there. France has an embassy there. They have a beef with Washington over tariffs. Canada has a beef. We're having it right in their backyard. Now, sadly and unfortunately, it would not surprise me at all if the NAACP would be afraid to have a conference in Canada, which brings me to my second option, which is I'm suggesting and recommending that the All African People's Revolutionary Party and the African People's Socialist Party under Chairman O'Malley, who of course now has been convicted on various charges, should hold a conference in Havana, Cuba.
I would be dope. And one of the things that I appreciate about Dr. Horn is that he just doesn't offer criticism. He offers potential solutions. It's just that unfortunately, I'll leave it at that. We'll go back to settler colonialism.
Right.
Palms on a chessboard that they're not in part the authors of their own misfortune. That's a 75-year analysis. The 250-year analysis goes back to 1776 with the slaveholders' revolt against the British Empire, led by slaveholders George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, etc. They succeed not least because they feel Britain is moving towards abolition of slavery, and also Britain was trying to restrain the settlers from moving west, taking the land of the indigenous, with Britain subsidizing real estate speculators like George Washington, one of the largest landowners then at that point. Right. So that helps to create this settler colonialism, which then, of course, leads to when indigenous, like the Cherokee and what is now Georgia, to assimilate the settler ideology by dressing like the settlers, adopting Christianity, even enslaving Africans. They still lose their land. They still have to go because of the 500-year analysis, which is that in the 1500s when Spain,
Sorry, that's why it makes no absolute sense when anyone tries to assimilate. Stop it. They have all tried it before us and they have all failed. They have all been betrayed. They have sacrificed their identity, their culture, their being, their humanity to fit amongst these European colonizers and have still been thrown into the fucking trash bin of history. Still. Because it's not about how you speak. It's not about how you carry yourself. It's not about who you worship. It's not about your ideology. It's that they don't view you as a human being because you do not look like them. It's that fucking simple.
Sponsor Columbus was taking this hemisphere by storm. You had to be Catholic to be a settler. You had African conquistadors who converted to Catholicism in Cuba, for example. That's one of the differences between the Black question on the island and the Black question in North America, for example, the different historical trajectories.
That shit gets fucking complicated, we're being honest. That shit's it's uncomfortable, but you can apply, the same solutions or your analysis has to be in tune with the material and the historical reality of, each place. and some conversations get uncomfortable. Now, I want to be very clear. Anyone who is brown and wants to make a claim to anti-blackness because of African conquistadors is full of fucking shit and is just a well-read anti-black racist. But I never want to give even a fucking glimmer of that's what I'm insinuating or talking about. It's just as unfortunate as it sounds to say it this way, but it does make for a more interesting conversation. I'll be honest with you. The casa system, the Catholic Church, the conquista, Latinoamerica, just makes for it has the variables and the complexities make for a deeper conversation to be had. Where the fucking Puritan fucking English, just complete fucking brutes, couldn't even be bothered to hide their objectives. And let's see here. That easy. Apparently we got a racist over here. Is that easy?
Martin Luther, 1517, secedes from the Roman Catholic Church for various reasons that need not detain us here. It sweeps through London by the 1530s. London wants to get in on the colonial feast, but they're in the midst of these round-robin wars, religious wars, with the Catholic powers, particularly Spain. Improvisationally, even though they had expelled their Jewish population at the end of the 13th century, they moved to flummox the Spanish, who of course were embarked on an Inquisition, an anti-Jewish crusade of bigotry.
This is why I usually do not watch this type of stuff on stream, because I'm just listening. And I mean, this was 11 months ago. Why is it Dome? Let me know. Let me know if this is an issue, please. Subscribe to Why is the Dome TV, y'all. I've said this every single time. Come on.
By incorporating the Jewish population and also those who they had been warring with, the Irish, the Scots, the Welsh, into this overarching identity politics, if you like, of whiteness, white supremacy.
Right.
Which then expands to incorporate others who they had been warring with: British versus German, German versus Pole, Pole versus Russian, Serb versus Croat, Northern Italian versus Southern Italian. The list is endless. All of a sudden, when they cross the Atlantic,
that includes the fucking Greeks. That includes fucking Australians.
They enter to the hollow halls of whiteness. Ultimately, the hollow halls of whiteness are expanded to include even those who might be Persian or Lebanese, like Ralph Nader, for example, who, by the way, made an ignorant analysis akin to that of Bernie Sanders.
What do you think? Okay.
And so this whiteness helps to explain what happens a few hundred years later when the Cherokees are ousted. And their mansions, in some cases in Georgia, are turned over to Europeans fresh off the boat. I was talking to a Euro-American yesterday who was telling me, growing up in Atlanta, in her backyard, she used to uncover Cherokee memorabilia. This is in like recent years, for example. So obviously what happens is that the settler colonial regime is created on the basis of white supremacy. As noted, oftentimes international pressure, like the Haitian Revolution, the rise of socialism, causes a retreat of white supremacy. We don't necessarily have that today. We need to recreate it, which is why I'm counseling holding a conference in Ottawa, Canada, sponsored by the NAACP, but there's a scary cats I doubt if they'll move forward. So I'm asking the African People's Socialist Party and the All African People's Revolutionary Party to have a similar conference in Havana, Cuba, no later than July 1, 2025, in order to block these impending deportations of Haitians, with the ultimate goal, if need be, is having an international movement of sanctions against the United States, like we had an international movement of sanctions against apartheid South Africa, which ultimately caused them to fall.
Again, willing to put his historical knowledge to praxis. Always an exemplary figure. Always an exemplary figure. And then I think we'll wrap up. Is double allegiance the one here?
Be revising Du Bois's idea of double consciousness, because I think that idea was, this two warring ideals between being both U.S. and Africa. I think the problem in the 21st century will be double allegiances. That is to say, Africa is trying to break away from the U.S.-led order. Black Americans are in the United States. They supposedly pay fealty to Africa, but if they thought through the consequences of de-dollarization, for example, on their pocketbooks and on their income, for example, this double allegiance is a real thing. People need to start thinking about it, start talking about it, and thinking of a way out. But if history is any guide, that won't happen.
And that's why, like, no matter how funny and how much Norm Finkelstein mocks it, like, decolonizing your mind is not easy. It's gonna require a lot of sacrifices, but it's necessary. And selfishly, it's necessary for our fucking well-being and survival. It's just nothing worth having comes fucking easy. No, David, I know. It's just that, these views and this attention should be going to Why Is It Dumb TV. Go subscribe to them. Go hit the like button on their channel if you could do me that favor. Because he's doing the work there. Now, we did a little bit of, we watched that. Now we got to do a little bit of reading. Just understand that identity politics, when it's used against you and you're actually critiquing white supremacy, you're actually critiquing settler colonialism, understand that it's a fucking dog whistle. Understand that it's a fucking dog whistle. Now, if they accuse you of using identity politics because you're trying to use your identity to hide the crimes of empire, to benefit from the exploitation of the so-called third world, the developing world, then yeah, you're weaponizing that shit for your own self-interest. All right. From Wired, Zohran Mamdani just inherited the NYPD surveillance state by Ali Winston. In addition to affordability, Jesus. This is funny. Should just tie. Here, one second. I remember when I did not know how to fucking tie my hair into a bun. A real struggle back then. Especially because I get hot quick, y'all. Get hot quick. So I usually normally do not have my hair down. They're like, why do you have long hair if you always have it up? So I have a weird ass fucking shaped head and I got 2 remolinos and my hair doesn't look good unless it's almost completely shaved, 2 on top, taper fade on the side, or if it's long. And if I get the fucking short 2 low taper, I look like a straight up fucking cholo. So can't have it. Can't have it. Not the way that I fucking dress. All right. Nah, está difícil. I mean, it's just, look, kind of a, I talk about identity and abandoning. Funny, like, it's funny. It's fucking hilarious that, like, a white dude is accusing me of identity politics. We understand that it's dog whistle. We understand that him saying that he was assaulted by me, that he was attacked by me, is a fucking dog whistle. Go check out his channel. He does not describe that or anyone else criticizing him in the last 6 months, at least. That's as far back as I had time to go. We understand it's a dog whistle, and he's used other Um, he's taking liberties with other phrases because he's white and he think he can get away with shit. Weaponized bigotry is an expression of the bigotry that you hold. You're just smart enough, patient enough to wait for what you believe is an appropriate target that will allow your bigotry to be excused. And again, these are the most insidious fucking people. But, you know, abandoning that Chicano identity, you call me a Chicano, it's fine. I don't care. Like, it's a description if you want, but abandoning the ideology behind it that a lot of people don't really acknowledge was difficult. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for white people. But what I'm getting at is you could fucking do it. You just have to be proactive, and it's a consistent thing. How often do you not hear me raging out, preaching against Chicanismo and Indigenismo? And that's because it's my responsibility, and part of the deal of moving away from that and abandoning it is combating it. That's part of it. So when it comes to whiteness, you don't just get to walk away while a white supremacy still exists. You have to combat it. You have to combat it. Yes, Chirimacha. So Dunbar Ortiz, Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, Indigenous Peoples' History of the United States was, you know, yeah. But yes, it was critical of Howard Zinn, and it's kind of just, I mean, it's fucking hilarious when people reference the People's History of the United States, because it's like, it's telling me a lot more that you glorify that book. It's a book that I think everyone should read for sure. It's a book that has a lot of inspirational moments about worker solidarity and the revolutionary potential of the working class for sure. But if you're glorifying that book, if that's like on your top 5, then you're letting me know that you're cool with the erasure of indigenous people, and that you're cool with pretending. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's still very much promoting the United States as a project that can be saved, that can be salvaged. And that in itself is settler colonial propaganda. It has great parts in it. I mean, I always tell people, like, when people tell me, "Oh, you're too hypercritical on yourself," like, you know, you're doing enough, whatever. I'm like, no, I'm not. The fuck. I remember that's one of the first books that I read where I'm like, oh, these motherfuckers are fucking busting 12, 14-hour shifts and showing up to read theory. Fuck. Showing up to read theory. Fuck, bro. I barely have enough energy to play with my dog after a 14-hour shift. And that's mainly because he doesn't give you an option. But yes, thank you. I was going to mention that next. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz is not indigenous. She busted a fucking Elizabeth Warren. So that's pretty gross, and that's a stain on it. Yeah, the reading list at the end of her book is it's helpful. Yes, exactly. Howard Zinn glorifying Bacon's Rebellion always has me dead. Bacon's Rebellion is like the pinnacle of why, like, whatever, like, populism, whatever movement led by colonizers is corrupt from its start. It's corrupt from its start. All right. Zohran Mamdani just inherited the NYPD surveillance state. And if you haven't already, please hit the like. We had some technical difficulties early on. Please hit the like. Subscribe if you haven't. Check out the channel Deculturation Live, where everything stays up. Subscribe there if you haven't already. Super chats are turned on. Super stickers are turned on. Appreciate all the help. But if anything, please get busy in the chat. Don't be scared, homies. We're friendly over here. We got some white people on here now. Look at that. In addition to affordability, New York City Mayor-elect will be forced to reckon with the NYPD's sweeping mass surveillance operation. New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. People are saying I'm saying it wrong. I don't know. I really do not pay attention to that shit. Like, because that is kind of like the identity politics bullshit aspect of it. Like, when Kamala Harris started running, everybody started saying, "Oh, they're saying their name, like her name. That's not how you say her name." And I'm like, pretty sure I heard fucking Biden say it that way. But, I mean, fine. How do you say it? Just tell me how to say it and I'll say it right. Or do my best job at trying to say it right. America, America, a new history of the new world. Greg branding is great. Okay, let's see. A new history of the new world. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Zohran Mamdani may have an ambitious policy agenda, but overhauling the self-governing and deeply dysfunctional behemoth that is the New York City Police Department is not on the list. Right off the fucking bat. Right off the fucking bat. One more time. New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani may have an ambitious policy agenda, but overhauling the self-governing and deeply dysfunctional behemoth that is the New York City Police Department is not on the list. Mamdani surprised supporters by asking current police commissioner Jessica Tisch to stay on after his inauguration early next year. Tisch, a technocrat heir to a vast real estate fortune, clashes with Mamdani on several fronts, including policy. She believes New York State's bail reforms cause rising crime and the geopolitics that inevitably make their way into New York City streets. Tisch family are key figures in the Israel lobby. Fuck. Of course. Not for anti-Semitic propaganda reasons, but of course for Zohran Mamdani continuing his allegiance to Zionists. Wow. Wow. Tisch families are key figures in the Israel lobby. Mamdani is vociferously pro-Palestinian. What the? No, I mean, he pretends to be, but when you say you're going to put Zionist in your administration, maybe that word is doing a little too much. On one area where Mamdani is guaranteed to clash with Tisch is on the NYPD's massive technical surveillance apparatus and intelligence gathering methods, which have metastasized since 9/11 to levels that rival the capabilities of a mid-sized country. More than one observer has characterized the NYPD as operating more like a U.S. intelligence agency. At one point, the department's intelligence division was run by the CIA, by a CIA veteran, and at least one CIA analyst was embedded at NYPD, then a police department. Jesus. I do believe that the NYPD is alongside the LAPD, but definitely more so in terms of technology. Is like, if the FBI is the SS, fuck, what would the NYPD be? Because the frustrating part with everything with ICE, in terms of like the way that we had to refer to everything as Nazis instead of, like, I always like Klansmen, is what is the FBI? If we're not labeling ICE as the SS, what the fuck does that make the FBI? In that analogy, where does the FBI fit in? While Mamdani's public safety proposals center on the creation of a $1 billion Department of Community Safety that will handle non-emergency 911 calls in place of armed cops, some of his other stated positions conflict directly with Tisch's own positions and background with the NYPD, where she got her start in the department's controversial intelligence division during the height of its mosque raking mass surveillance of Muslim New Yorkers. Experts say the stakes in the current moment are far higher with regard to surveillance, largely due to the federal government's nationwide immigration blitz, using surveillance data gathered by police departments to track down and arrest targeted people. Yeah, the amount of access surveillance that ICE is obtaining, and especially knowing that they're non-existent hiring fucking requirements, absolutely terrifying. Because the amount of what they're going to use it for, what they're supposed to use it for, is already bad enough. But understand that it's never just for that. It's never just used for what is, what it's advertised to be for. It's always used for broader purposes. And they will always push the limits that were set forth for them until they're challenged. And even when they're challenged, come on. They have a fucking reason to obey any court order. Andrew Guthrie Ferguson of George Washington University Law School studied the use of high-tech surveillance by law enforcement and is the author of The Rise of Big Data Policing. He has studied the NYPD's sweeping build-out of network CCTV, gunshot detectors, license plate readers, and video analytics since 9/11. The current wave of federal immigration raids, he says, have made clear how local police data, such as fingerprints and license plate scans, can be weaponized by an authoritarian administration. It makes the current moment ripe for a reckoning on police surveillance. For an authoritarian administration, literally any U.S. administration is authoritarian. In a horrible way, the sense of how technologies can be weaponized against people has expanded, Ferguson tells Wired. When the government expanded its targeting, it also expands the conversation beyond the poor Black communities that are initially targeted by things like CCTV networks and predictive policing. Because of the extermination of the indigenous population to a point where numerically they do not pose a threat to the settler colonial project. And I've said this before, the main target is the Black community, is Black men. That's just a reality that just is. So whenever technologies advance in terms of surveillance, control, oppression, they will always be used towards the Black community. Always. Even when not initially, it will always come back around. And when you heard a lot of radical left Black voices oppose ICE raids, while the K Hive and Black liberals were not our problem, the frustration was it will be, because it always is. It will be because it always is. Because it will always turn back to the Black community. And that's one of the frustrating things of the brown community's insistence of being anti-Black, inability to be true allies. It's fucking disgusting because it's bro, especially like I said, I'm first generation, those showing up here, look the fuck around. Look the fuck around. I remember having a conversation with somebody who, again, apolitical, just a lot of backward ideas, but based on a lack of education. And during Black Lives Matters, we had conversations about it. And they surprised me because they're like, yeah, no, like I support Black Lives Matter. I'm like, really? Why is that? And they're like, well, because this is their country and they shouldn't be treated that way by the police that are supposed to protect the citizens. And I'm like, oh shit, I was kind of surprised. And I'm like, well, the police state, the police, all those in powers, like, don't view it that way. And that's why, like, it is preposterous for anybody to refute that the Black community is not an internal colony, because that's exactly how they're treated. To pretend otherwise is to deny reality. To deny reality. And so all these technologies and all these advancements at oppression, surveillance, subjugation will always be imposed, implemented against, tested on the Black community. And for the brown community to come here and look around and not realize that we're not the number one target, even now, that it's also not going to like come after us. It's so fucking like stupid not to fucking have solidarity, even for your own fucking selfish reasons, even for your own self-preservation. Anti-Blackness is so prevalent that even for your own, to save your own fucking ass, you refuse to show solidarity. And it's frustrating because I'm like, fuck it, man. We fucking deserve it then. We don't. But when you get frustrated, you start thinking that way. We don't. No human does. But if we don't smarten up, then we're fucking asking for it. You know what I mean? Oh, that's victim blaming. It's like, homie, we've had decades to get our head in the game. But even in prison, we align with the fucking Aryans. Violet, like, I agree. Again, not with everything anyone says, but like with Dr. Tommy Curry's work of the state's targeting of Black men. I think Palestine was a great reminder of how settler colonial projects specifically target men because they view them as combatants. They cannot target women, trans, queer folk with the same ease until they start targeting either through, permanent ends or incarceration of the men of the community. But we don't have to agree on everything. And if that comes off as sexist, that's because the settler colonial projects are sexist. Son machistas. But they view the men as, this is why, young Black kids are treated as men. This is why the Zionists treat Palestinian children, boys, as terrorists. Because they see the potential threat within them if they're allowed to grow up. And so they have to remove that threat first and foremost before they can enact their violence upon the women and the queer and the trans people in those communities. That doesn't mean that once that happens, the targeting isn't there. It just means that, from my understanding, there is a process to get there. No, I mean, TKC strike. Yeah, the deserving part. Like, I'm always gonna be blunt and honest about how I'm feeling. Like I'm saying, when I'm frustrated, it feels like fuck it, man. I guess this is what we deserve. But that comes out of frustration. And so, um, acknowledging that and being honest about it, and knowing that, hey, I might not be the only one that feels that frustration at times, or letting you know that, hey, I feel that shit too. But we have to move past it, and we can't get stuck in that sentiment, that way of thinking. I think that's important. And that's why I try to be as blunt, as honest, as transparent as possible, because it's like, hey, like, we're all struggling with a lot of internalized bullshit. And I have no patience for those arrogant fucking white people that pretend otherwise. Mamdani's campaign did not respond to a request for comment. The NYPD turns towards mass surveillance. What the fuck? Hold on. The NYPD's turn towards mass surveillance was begun in earnest by Commissioner Raymond Kelly during the immediate aftermath of September 11th, buoyed by hundreds of millions of dollars in federal anti-terrorist grants. However, Ferguson says Kelly's rival, former Commissioner William Braden, was a key architect behind the NYPD's reliance on big data. This fool has his nose like straight on the floor because his head's hanging out of his bed, and so it's straight on the floor, and you can hear every breath he's taking because it's just like right there. And he's having a good dream because his mouth is twitching, and his paws are like moving a little bit. Sorry, it was so distracting. Like, why is he breathing so loud? That's because he's barely breathing through one fucking nostril, apparently. That's hilarious. Sorry. However, Ferguson says Kelly's rival, former Commissioner William Bratton, was a key architect behind the NYPD's reliance on big data by implementing the CompStat data analysis system to map and electronically collate crime data during the mid-1990s. And again during his return to New York City in 2014 under Mayor Bill de Blasio. Bratton was also a mentor to Jessica Tisch, and has spoken admiringly of her since leaving the NYPD. What were we going over yesterday? The CIA is running fucking political candidates. That's what they're doing. The CIA is running political candidates within the Democratic Party. And, hey, another Democrat, awesome, vote blue no matter who. But the way that they all know each other, they all work for each other, they all have relationships with each other. Big fucking club, y'all. Tisch was a main architect of NYPD's domain awareness system, an enormous $3 billion Microsoft-based surveillance network of tens of thousands of private and public surveillance cameras, license plate readers, gunshot detectors, social media feeds, biometric data, cryptocurrency analysis, location data, body-worn and dash cam live streams, and other technology that blankets the 5 boroughs' 468 square mile territory. Fuck, bro. So that's some fucking Minority Report shit right there. Wow. 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 And the thing is, and I would never advocate for this, if someone wants to hack this to be able to use the enemy's eyes against itself, but that's just fantasy, Pattern off of London's 1990s CCTV surveillance network, the Ring of Steel was initially developed under Kelly as an anti-terrorism surveillance system for Lower and Midtown Manhattan before being rebranded as a DAS and marketed to other police departments as potential for-profit tool. Several dozens of the 17,000 cameras in New York City public housing developments were also linked through backdoor methods by the Eric Adams administration last summer, with thousands more in the pipeline, according to NY Focus. Fucking A. public housing. They're trying to keep the eye in the sky on the poor people. Because they know when shit gets too difficult, when shit gets too desperate, when people become too desperate, that's where things are going to spark off. That's where they will ignite. Jesus. Though the DAS has been operational for more than a decade and survived prior challenges over data retention and privacy violations from civil society organizations like the New York Civil Liberties Union, it remains controversial. See, these courts, bro, these courts are always going to uphold this shit. And even if they don't, how the fuck are they going to enforce it? Man. Oh, it's fucking terrifying. But it also kind of like the whole Mandilio Joni guy. What was his first name? Luigi. Mandilio is it's so fucking comical. Stop, bro. Stop. It was a fucking setup. He was the fall guy. Though, let's see. Okay. In late October, a Brooklyn couple filed a civil suit along with surveillance technology oversight project STOP, a local privacy watchdog against the DAS, alleging violations of New York State's constitutional right to privacy by the NYPD's persistent mass surveillance and data retention. NYPD officers, the suit claims, can automatically track an individual across the city using computer vision software, which follows a person from one camera to the next based on descriptors as simple as the color of a piece of clothing. The technology, they allege, transforms every portal officer into a mobile intelligence unit, capable of conducting warrantless surveillance at will. Of course. Does the NYPD police gangs? No, apparently just their fucking exes they can't get over. But this is what we were talking about last time in terms of like, yesterday we were talking about the cartels, those narcos in Mexico. It's like, no, like the state isn't, and the narcos are one and the same. And while here, in the belly of the beast, they're not one and the same. They only exist because fucking, they have the influence that they have, despite us having a police state, because they don't give a fuck about stopping it. They need them to exist in order to have an excuse for their budget and their continued existence and the increasing of that budget. They need the gangs to exist for that fucking overtime, baby. They need that shit. Because if they were to actually implement all this technology to stop gangs, they will never be completely successful, because need and desperation creates, the environment for gangs to develop. They would still be able to hit gangs in such a way that it would illustrate that the reality is that we have all this policing not to stop gangs, not to stop, these violent attacks and rapes and assaults. No. We have the police state to make sure that the status quo is maintained in preparations for any type of revolutionary action. It's not to stop gangs. Yes, Mac, the Fort Bragg cartel, some of them are the one and the same. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like in the national, for sure. No questions there. It's a really open question about whether he'll push policies that will dismantle the infrastructure of mass religious and racial profiling and pseudoscience of surveillance as safety and focus on evidence-based alternatives, or he'll be too afraid of the New York Post. That's all it takes. Wow. You seize power for this? You compromise with Zionists for this? Jeez. We'll see. Says Albert Fox Can, the founder in residence of Stop, referring to Tish as the mother of the DAS. Fox Can question why Mamdani would choose to retain a police commissioner with a record on privacy and criminal justice that runs contrary to the mayor-elect. Maybe because it doesn't. Maybe because it doesn't. What is it? What? Tell me who you hang out with, and I'll tell you who you are. Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. Tell me who the people that you choose to employ, and I'll tell you who you are. Or did we leave off? Mamdani has vowed to get rid of the NYPD's controversial gang database, an elimination Tish strongly opposes. This raises a fundamental question. When mayors are so terrified of firing police commissioners who are inconsistent with their own agenda, do we really have democratic oversight of policing? Are they overseeing police in name only? Yup. And if not, what does that say about the state of democracy in America? Never had it. Forget Trump. This is on the local level. Fox can, you're on the money, bro. You're on the money. And look, what stops these people from realizing what it is that they do not view this fucking place as a settler colonial empire. That's the problem. If you view the cops as fucking colonial forces, it all makes fucking perfect sense. It makes perfect sense why it does not matter who is the face of the settler colonial project when it comes to, the policing and oversight of the local safety and well-being of each fucking colonial municipality. All right, I got how much do we have left here? We got quite a bit. Fuck. I was trying to wrap up by 3. All right, we're gonna speed run this a little bit. Municipal oversight over the NYPD's massive surveillance arsenal is indeed lacking, even though New York City passed a relatively mild oversight law for the NYPD surveillance gear in 2020 that required the agency to disclose the purchase and deployment of new surveillance technologies. How wasn't that always a prerequisite? The department refused to comply. Oh, what the fuck did I just say? How are they gonna enforce this? As a result, there is no public accounting for the contracts, use policies, and deployments of many of NYPD's most invasive tools, including drones and robot dogs. We fucking made it, bro. We made it to robot dogs. Love to see it. If my dog bites somebody, they're putting him down. The NYPD's dogs can do whatever the fuck they want, and it's all good. Elizabeth Joe, a law professor at UC Davis School of Law, who has long studied police intelligence and surveillance practices, says that Mamdani's progressive ideals are on a collision course with the NYPD's operational model, which has founded on pervasive surveillance of the city. It's not on a collision course. It's not. They're not going to collide. They're going to así mero, así merito. That's what's going to happen. God damn it, bro. Fuck. I want to be wrong. I want to emphasize to all you fucking radlibs, to all you liberals, I want to be wrong. I want to be incorrect. I hope that I am. Believe it or not. You don't have to. But if I'm wrong, that means that the surveillance state of New York will not be dismantled, but at least get pulled back somewhat, so that the people in New York, the black and brown communities there, the working class communities, may have some breathing room. It's not liberation, but I'm practical, believe it or not, in my sensibilities, that I'm like, at least it'll be something. But we can't even have that, motherfuckers. We can't even have that. What does it mean to be the mayor of a big American city where the police have absolutely embraced techno solutionism as policing, as a dominant attitude towards policing, Joe says. One potential inflection point for NYC could be future immigration sweeps like those in Los Angeles and Chicago, where police are making use of data collected by local cops and biometric software to hunt down undocumented people. Literally hunt down. Literally fucking hunt down. The immigration enforcement will almost certainly be a flashpoint. The use of technology in that context is alarming people, and I'm not surprised feds are using live facial recognition. Joe says a New York Department of Investigation report last year lambasted Mayor Eric Adams and police officials for buying and deploying several new tools, including a semi-autonomous robotic dog, an entirely useless night scope security robot, the Star Chase GPS system, which allows officers to fire a tracking projectile designed to stick to a car, smartphone fingerprinting technology, and an augmented reality program police officers can download on their phones. I might rewatch the Minority Report just out of this, just for this fucking article. Just for this article. I haven't seen it in a fucking while. And yes, Tom Cruise is one of my favorites. Whatever. Fuck it. Who's yours? Who's your unproblematic favorite? Damn, bro. In August, the Legal Aid Society urged the City Department of Investigation to scrutinize the NYPD's use of facial recognition technology after the city reported that the NYPD used an FDNY account with Clearview AI to identify a pro-Palestinian protester at Columbia University. The NYPD also maintains a facial recognition database that includes photographs of juveniles. Bro, with the fucking amount of pedophile pigs, bro. Fucking. According to a 2019 reporting by the New York Times, 3 bills are currently in front of New York City Council to ostensibly strengthen its visibility into the NYPD surveillance arsenal, including a requirement to draft formal facial recognition use and audit police policies. However, the City Council has far less power to scrutinize and set policy for the police department's spying capabilities than many other cities that passed legislation reform in the 2010s, thanks to intense lobbying by the NYPD against a stronger bill. This is why we had to say, like, police unions are not NYPD attempts to block surveillance transparency law with misinformation. Of course, they fucking lie. Man, if I had more time, we would be reading that like, immediately right now between it. Excuse me. Sorry. Let's keep pushing forward. Yeah, but this is why police unions are not fucking unions. This is why police are not workers. They're not part of the working class. You know, I like that ode to John Trudell, Techno-Fascist USA. But the thing is, and I'll be brief, how we view technology, I mean, there's always been technology, right? There's always been technology. And so it's always been a techno-fascist state. It's just the way that, you know, that we view technology obviously changes. But yeah, you're not wrong. Beyond creating a Department of Community Safety, Mamdani's other rare point of policy, clarity on public safety, concerns the department's repressive approach to protests and the role of its controversial intelligence division in conducting mass surveillance on Muslim New Yorkers. The demographic unit created under former Commissioner Ray Kelly by a CIA officer loaned to the NYPD, loaned to the CIA. Can I get a CIA officer loaned to me? What is the going rate for a fucking CIA officer just on a loan, just temporarily? I just want to rent one. Jeez. To the NYPD in the mid 2000s, went about mapping Muslims and Middle Eastern communities in the city's 5 boroughs. Meanwhile, the undercover officers were sent to infiltrate religious congregations and student groups as far afield as Connecticut and New Jersey. Although the demographic units have been disbanded, in name only usually, and the department's mosque raking operations, that is such a fucking appalling name. Mosque raking operations led to a local settlement. Activists and legal workers say that the department's surveillance in Middle Eastern and South Asian community is still prevalent. Fucking course it is, bro. You're not Americans. That's what we have to understand. They do not view us as fucking Americans, no matter how long we're here, no matter how well we fucking behave, no matter how much we compromise, no matter how much we assimilate. They will always keep a fucking eye on us because they do not view us as Americans. We cannot buy into it. We cannot obtain whiteness, mi gente. I always say it. You could try all you fucking want. We have white dinos. Congrats to you. Have all the fucking fun you want. But if you're brown, they ain't fucking with you. They're not going to fucking do it. And it goes without saying if you're black as well. Notably, Tish family is best known around New York City for its philanthropy. Bro, the amount of rad libs that glorify donations and philanthropy, it's fucking ridiculous. Man, they would have loved Carnegie. They would have loved Carnegie. With the family name adorning concert halls, museum wings, and the university's department, the family is also known for donating heavily to Israeli causes. Jerusalem's Tish Biblical Zoo, for example. Biblical Zoo? Okay. All right, let's push forward. I'm limited on time, y'all. Wow. He's keeping someone that has a fucking zoo, a biblical zoo after them in the Zionist entity. In people, Hassan Piker, Emma Vigeland, Sam Cedar, fucking Kyle Kalinske, Cristobal, Ryan Grimm, all these fucking same people defending a war criminal, a mercenary, Grant Plattner, this fucking anti-black racist, are also telling you to celebrate Mamdani, who's keeping Trish. Let's just say that she didn't have, just for a brief moment, the Zionist connections, the Zionist ties, that she didn't have a fucking biblical zoo named after her. Or at least the family, named after the family. Just for a fucking second. Still, being a millionaire, heiress, whatever the fuck, would be bad enough. Still, having those connections to the surveillance state would be bad enough. Which they have a fucking biblical zoo after them. He was not lying when he said he was going to have Zionists of the whole Zionist spectrum in his administration. Tengo tanta pinche hambre que se me antojaron unos tacos. Unos tacos. The best. God damn. That's fish. Don't get me confused. I'm sorry. I'm super hungry and I'm craving some fucking fish tacos right now. All right. With Jessica's father playing key roles in the U.S.-Israel lobby and donating heavily to both pro-Trump Republican congressional candidates and GOP political action committees, her extended family threw at least $900,000 into supporting Andrew Cuomo's failed NYC mayoral bid, including her mother, former New York State Regent Merrill Tish. Bro, you're keeping the ops. You're keeping them in-house. Okay, maybe there's some 4D chess move of keep your enemies closer. Mamdani, Cuomo fucking whispered in his ear when he, when he lost, he was like, keep your enemies close, kid. Azio Zoo. God damn. All right. How much do we have left? Fuck, we're speed reading this. All right. Jessica Tish got her start in the NYPD in the Kelly era Intelligence Bureau, building dossiers on Muslim extremism. This is how she sharpened her fucking teeth. In January, she gave the opening remarks at a training on combating anti-Semitism that labeled participants in Students for Justice in Palestine as campus extremists and claimed that SJP was responsible for a 300% increase in anti-Semitism at American colleges and universities. At the training, kaifas and watermelons were branded as anti-Semitic symbols and incite hatred, violence, or discrimination against Jewish individuals or communities. Fuck out of here, bro. You're keeping this person? Oh my God. You have the built-in reason to rid yourself of her. You have a built-in reason to rid yourself of this fucking person, bro. Get the fuck. Dozier? How do you say that word? God damn. What the fuck is going on, bro? Like, the more you look into these fucking people, the worse it gets. There's absolutely no excuse for Zohran Mamdani to keep her. Her staying as commissioner is all we need to fucking know. Because she's going to be in charge of the attack dogs. And I'm not talking about the fucking robots. I'm talking about the fucking bots that joined the NYPD. Jesus Christ. You're not wrong. What do you think in chat? We're almost towards the end of this, but there's a bunch of fucking links that I want to go over. Look at this shit. NYPD attempts to block surveillance. All right. Sela says, please continue this article on your next stream chat. On your next stream, because there is a great deal of information in this article. How many people still stuck around? I haven't even looked because I was so into this fucking. It's a great fucking article. But Wired fucking killed it. This is an outstanding fucking article. 83. Let me make a poll. We got 83 viewers right now. Appreciate y'all being here. Only 65 likes. Do me a favor, hit the like button, if you will. Let me do a poll. Let's do a poll. Let's see. Start a poll. Continue this tomorrow. If we do continue tomorrow, I'll do a deep dive to the links and we'll go over it. But let me know. Continue this article tomorrow. We'll dive deeper into it, or do I just fucking? Because I need to dip out. It's like now, right? So we're just gonna fucking speed run this. Yeah, let's get those likes up, y'all. So she's keeping a Zionist Batman villain and his administration. This guy is a joke. Malik, yeah. Has her own fucking zoo, bro. She's gonna like sick. Oh man. That's so fucking funny. 29 votes. All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not assuming a lot of people are gonna vote, but he's keeping her because why you are reading to us that the rest of the NYC population doesn't know about. So I mean, who knows, man. If I understand what you're getting at, yeah. Leave that tomorrow. That's my vote. Red Sea, she might run against him in 4 years. I mean, he's helping her build her fucking political career. So gosh, she's black. We don't need to look at the past. We focus on the future. Filed with people who did the horrible shit in the past. Filled, yes. All right. David Barnes, you're fucking hilarious. They definitely have my number blocked, so whatever. All right, looks like 34 votes, 88. Whoa, okay, somebody's got to vote. So we're not ending we're not ending the voting at 88, y'all. Come on, at least 2 more people vote, one way or another. We're not ending the. I'm not getting branded a fucking anti-Semite again. Emma Vigeland will not win. Let's get some more votes on there, please. Jesus fucking Christ. It says 88 yes. Yeah. All right, y'all. Hit the like button. 89.90. All right, appreciate y'all. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Helps this channel out. Get busy in the chat. Don't be scared, homies. We have a good time here. We got some white people feeling comfortable over here, feeling brave. We love that. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I got some things coming up. I've been invited to 2 things that I think are going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be a big part of it, believe it or not. You know, I'll leave it like that. It'll be a cool surprise. When it gets closer to the date, I'll let y'all know. Por mientras, do yourself a favor, as Glenn Ford used to say, organize with eyes wide open. Ya estuvo.